Welcome to a new Neon Jazz interview with jazz pianist, composer, and arranger Walt Wagner. We caught up with him on April 19th, 2020, as the coronavirus lockdown was really starting to take place, to talk about his latest 2020 CD, Trajectory. The Seattle-based artist started very young on the piano, and he never let up. He's got a great story, great tales. Enjoy.
Thanks for taking a minute to talk to me.
Oh, sure.
It's unique to have a CD that's going to be out and about. It's new during this time of quarantine, and Trajectory is out. And I want to just kind of talk to you about this album and what it means to have new material out during this very unique time in our history.
Well, it sure wasn't planned to have this kind of timing. We went into the studio last year to just to get some. We had just started playing together, and we were already so tight that we just wanted to get in the studio and be able to, number one, see what we really sound like to ourselves, and number two, try to get a couple of videos that we could put up and just start getting people familiar with us. And because we did about 6 tunes, and 5 of them we belated. I wasn't even planning on putting it on a disc, but we just kind of liked them so much that we remixed it and made this little disc. And so I was just getting started on getting it manufactured and all that when all this hit. And I thought, well, who knows anything right now? I might as well just go ahead with it. And actually, I'm hoping it'll work for us because I think by the time this starts getting some airplay, which it looks like it's going that direction, people might be all pent up, not only for restaurants and everything else they've been doing without, but maybe for hearing some new music and catching what we're doing. And maybe this time is giving them more time to check out new music. Who knows?
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a really good way of looking at it. So are you based in Seattle right now?
Yes.
Okay.
It is beautiful springtime too. Wow.
Yeah. That's kind of the way it is here in Kansas City. I know that was kind of one of the first hot spots of everything. So how's everything doing up there?
I think they've got a turnaround going. It seems like they caught it, and so I don't think it's the worst anymore. New York kind of took our place. Still, everything's still shut down. I mean, there's just nothing going on.
Yeah, it's kind of the way it is here. So, yeah,
right.
We're just all on total shutdown. So talk to me a little bit about your beginnings, your childhood, and how jazz became your life.
I came from a musical family. My mom was a pianist and a trombonist when she was in school, and then my dad was based in Omaha. He was a professional trombonist before he met my mom. That's actually how he met my mom. She heard him play, and so they were kind of a territory band back there. And anyway, they moved out to Seattle, got married, and my mom started. She taught beginning piano and intermediate piano, but she wisely chose not to try to teach me, and she took me to a former teacher of hers who started me out when I was 6, and it was all classical from between when I was 6 to probably 20, 21 years old. I took straight the whole time classical music from one really good teacher after another, and the last one was at the University of Washington. But at the same time, starting in middle school, I fell into a rock band, and not knowing how to improvise at all or read chord changes or anything, and the rest of the guys were that way too. So we kind of learned together, and actually we started to get pretty good, and we wound up getting rock dances and stuff. And that was a big deal in the Northwest at the time. And we used to play those, and then a business agent of the Musicians Union talked me into joining the Musicians Union, and he hired me to play trombone, which was my other instrument, in the Parks Band, and then also introduced me to a nightclub owner who hired me, not knowing any tunes, And I just did the piano bar gig, reading everything out of fake books, and just teaching myself how to play. Bluesette and Blue Moon and Misty and all those, and just learning all those standards for the first time. Taste of Honey, and then I because of that, I met another person who introduced me to a restaurant owner who had a bunch of really good restaurants, and they hired me for 5 years, and I wound up playing solo and then with a duo and then with a trio, and that's kind of how I learned how to play. And different players that I would play with kind of showed me different influences, like Oscar Peterson and Art Tatum and Chick Corea and all those guys, and I just would listen to records. I tried to find a jazz teacher, but it was just easier to find classical teachers then. I couldn't find a jazz teacher, so I wound up having to teach myself by listening to all the masters, and I just still think that's a great way to learn, and listening to them and playing with as many good players as you can. And so that's kind of how I gradually got into jazz that way. After my trio did really good in a big place called the Windjammer in Seattle, and it was a dance place, and some people from Sun Valley, Idaho, heard me, and they're building a new resort there, and hired me, and then I began to be exposed to national producers and things that would pass through Sun Valley, and the trio. Then I got hired to be a feature in a starting with Peggy Fleming, the skater. She had a show called The Concert on Ice, which was actually a variety show, and I did a feature in that show. And then I started opening for mostly comedians, Bob Newhart and Bob Hope and Bill Cosby and all these. And then I met the son-in-law of Peggy Lee, the singer, and she hired me to be her pianist conductor for a while, which I did in Florida, and so just all over the map, kind of pathway. I just kind of followed where it led, which I'm still doing.
Yeah, cool. Let me ask you this: if you could go, like tonight, you have a dream and you run into your younger self, say, 30 years ago, or when you were starting out, and you could give yourself advice, one piece of advice, what would it be?
Stick to my guns, I guess, with my own musical integrity. I think I just didn't trust myself when I was younger. So I would kind of be more impressionable about what other people would tell me, and I wound up doing more pop music. I still like playing pop music, but with a jazz sensibility. Brad Muldauer is an example of I like to do that kind of stuff. Yeah, my advice to myself would be to not get caught up in the trying to make it in LA and all that kind of stuff, and just number one, put in the time every day, which I did put in a lot of time, but I always think I could have put in more, and I still do. I still am practicing, and I still think I should practice more. But just stay focused. I think that's my biggest advice.
So what do you like best about being a musician?
Oh, the music. Just the absolute sheer joy of playing in a situation that is good. Like my trio now. I mean, I had a couple of years ago, I finished 20 years of playing in an amazing, gorgeous place called Canlis. It's a restaurant in Seattle. It's a really high-end restaurant. And ever since they opened, same family, in 1950, they've always had a piano player in that place. And I had only done shows and listening music kind of things, and when they approached me and to play in there, and I gave it a try, and it was appealing to me to just stay home instead of being on the road all the time. So I thought I'd go in for a month or two and I wound up staying for 20 years because it was just such a free atmosphere, an encouraging atmosphere for playing. So I just explored all sorts of music. It had traditionally been just old standards, but they allowed me to just stretch out, and I'm always tuned to audiences, and I just basically want to make sure I'm connecting with audiences. So I try to play in a way and play tunes that they can resonate to, but also to make it really interesting and energetic. So that 20 years was great, except after 20 years, I was really ready to collaborate again with other players. And this bassist I'm with now, Dan Dean, he and I have worked together in the past. Actually, he worked with me when I played with Peggy Lee. And then Ben Smith, the drummer, who was the rock group Heart's drummer forever. I like his groove. He has a rock sensibility, but he's also had all sorts of time in New York playing with Latin bands and bebop, and he's just got so much experience. But he's got that straight ahead rock pocket that he gets into. Even if we're playing 7/8 and 5/4 and different time, he just flows and he cooks the whole time. So, and both of them are goofy, and so we just laugh through the whole rehearsals, and on stage it's just a joy. So that's where the bottom line is for me. That's what gets me going in my life.
So what was the first live jazz show you saw in person that made you think, man, this is what I want to do with my life?
Oh, man. The Colony Club in downtown Seattle. We were underage. So a couple of other guys in my rock band, Dick and Harry. And we had a Tom also. We had a Tom, Dick, and Harry in my rock band. But Dick and Harry and I used to go to the Colony Club and hear Overton Berry, who still is playing and still draws a big crowd in Seattle. He's just this great, joyful guy, and he had a trio there that just killed it. And we had never heard anything like it. And so that was the first real jazz I heard then. Was kind of we were still in high school, like seniors in high school. We were underage, and it was a bar, but I don't know. Somehow they let us in, and we didn't drink anything naughty, but that was my first experience. And so that got, once you get your tastes going, then I was tuned into finding other groups and seeing what they sounded like. Records again were the biggest deal for me. But also my parents took me to hear Louis Armstrong like 5 times at the Orpheum Theater in Seattle. I heard Louis Armstrong's group, and to hear that, that's why the word joy comes up with me a lot, because that was the bottom line with his group too. It was just like a party to hear those guys play. So I just had a fortunate growing up, and as soon as I was ready, I was exposed to a lot of really good players and good musical situations.
Yeah, that sounds like the good old days right there for sure.
Yeah.
So, we're in this COVID-19 world of lockdown and quarantine and uncertainty and a lot of things, and the music is silent, and it's, something that's unique to everybody on the planet right now. But we're going to get back to it. The live music will happen, and whatever incarnation that is. And I want to know from you, what do you hope both the musician and the audience realizes from this time away when we come back?
What we all should realize. It feels like people are really getting, because everybody has time now, so they're thinking about things that they just put off thinking about, I think, and that, like, what's most important in your life, and making a living and getting food on the table is always going to be the most important, but the arts, people are doing without now. The arts in the form of fine cuisine as well as art and music. People I think are starving to death for that now, and so I think it's going to be appreciated in a renewed way once this starts up. I mean, I know I'm craving to go hear some people playing in clubs and in concerts. I mean, all the musicians are ready too, I'm sure. But I think that a new consciousness of the value of good music. That's what I'm hoping for anyway.
Yeah, I would totally agree. So I want to kind of get to the essence and the soul of you, and I want to ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, and your fans, but you know yourself best. Who do you think you are?
Who do I think I am? I'm an introvert, and so I just can stay home all day long and be in my studio the whole day and not talk to anybody and just be totally happy. I don't even think about it. I don't get lonesome. That's just me. But I also enjoy, introversion and extroversion is on a sliding scale, so you're not totally introverted or totally extroverted, I don't think. But I'm more down toward the introverted side, and so I'm happy being alone a lot. So I'm not sure. So I'm not out there socializing a whole lot. I'm not like a recluse, but I can do socializing. So when I'm on stage, I belong to that audience. I love them, and I think they love me too because they see me as a not slick. I'm definitely not slick. I talk to them, tell them what I'm playing, but I never can compose anything that I don't think and compose anything to say ahead of time that doesn't sound like BS to me. So I just rely on the moment when I'm performing to talk to the audience or not, and what I'm going to say. And just being natural like that, I think, is endearing to the audience. And I found out over the years that I don't have to be afraid of that. And it used to be I just clammed up and hated to get on the mic. So I think people see me as accessible, and hopefully they can recognize that I can play. And so there's a joy in my music, again, using that word. There's an energy that I've always had on stage that I always say one of my biggest fear is to have a second that's boring. And so I need the music, each tune, when I write them and when I arrange my tunes and we play, I want it to really be going somewhere the whole time. And also this kind of arc of my set. I don't want there to be any kind of long spells of nothing happening. I just want things to really be going like the whole time and ending on a real high. So hopefully they see me as accessible and a super good musician. That's what I want.
Well, I think you just ended this on a high note, so I believe it. Walt, thank you for taking a minute to talk with me here at Neon Jazz. It's an extraordinary time on the planet for all of us. It's a very surreal time in a lot of ways, and I just look forward to you guys getting back at it. It's going to be a joy.
Thank you. It's great to talk to you, and you're sure filling a great void in what's going on right now.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in Seattle, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. Thanks to Walt for his music and his time. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit Neon Jazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.